The sky turned purple above the North American Defense Command Center as Alan Foster stared at his monitoring screens. His coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Something big had just appeared near Jupiter, something that wasn't supposed to be there. "Sir, we have an unidentified object at the edge of the system," said Lisa Chen, the young radar specialist whose eyes were now wide with concern. Alan put down his cup and leaned forward. "How big?" "Massive, about 3 miles long." "And sir?" "It's not alone." The screens filled with more signals as the sensors adjusted. One ship became 5, then 20, then over 100. The room fell silent as everyone watched the objects move with purpose, forming a pattern that left no doubt. This was a fleet. A military fleet. "Get Admiral Blake on the line," Alan ordered, his voice steady despite the cold feeling in his stomach. "And someone wake up the president." 30 minutes later, the most powerful people on Earth gathered in the underground situation room. Maps and data feeds covered the walls as Susan Blake, a tall woman with gray hair and a stern face, pointed at the incoming fleet. "They're moving faster than anything we've ever seen," she told the silent room. "They'll reach Mars in 3 days." The president, a man not used to feeling helpless, looked at the gathered experts. "What are they? What do they want?" As if answering his question, every screen in the room flickered. A face appeared. At least it seemed like a face. It had scales instead of skin, yellow eyes with slits for pupils and no visible nose. When it spoke, its mouth showed rows of sharp teeth. "People of Earth, we are the Draconian Empire. Your world is now under our protection. Resistance is both futile and unnecessary. We come to rule, not to destroy. Comply, and you will live. Resist, and you will not." The message repeated in 20 different languages before the screens returned to normal. "Well, that answers that question," the president said, trying to sound braver than he felt. In a laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Olivia Ward didn't know about the aliens yet. She was too busy looking at the strange readings on her quantum physics equipment. Something was causing disturbances in the fabric of space-time, and she couldn't figure out what. Her assistant, Daniel Green, burst into the lab, out of breath. "Olivia, turn on the news. Aliens, real aliens." Olivia frowned. "Daniel, if this is another one of your jokes, it's not. The whole world is going crazy. They're calling them Draconians, like dragons, I guess, because they look like lizards." Olivia turned on the small TV in the corner of her lab. As the news showed blurry images of the alien ships, her eyes moved back and forth between the screen and her equipment. Suddenly, she understood. "It's them," she whispered. "They're causing these quantum fluctuations. Their ships, they must bend space somehow." Back at the Defense Command Center, Alan Foster received new information. The alien fleet had split up. Most ships were still heading to Mars, but 5 smaller vessels were coming directly to Earth. "They'll be here in 12 hours, he told Admiral Blake. "What are your orders?" The Admiral looked tired. "We've sent up fighters to meet them, but based on their technology, it won't do much good." "So we just surrender?" Alan couldn't hide the anger in his voice. "No, we buy time. The president is going to try talking to them. Meanwhile, I need your help with something else." She handed him a folder marked Top Secret. "There's a research facility in the Rockies. They've been working on experimental physics, something called quantum entanglement. The scientists there think they might have found something useful." Alan opened the folder and saw a picture of a serious-looking woman with dark hair. "Dr. Olivia Ward?" "Yes. You're going to bring her and her research to a safe location. If these lizard people are as advanced as they seem, we'll need every advantage we can get." As Alan prepared to leave, Jack Murray, an intelligence officer with thick glasses, approached him. "Sir, I've been analyzing the Draconian transmission. There's something odd about it." "What do you mean?" Jack showed him a tablet with sound waves on it. "Their language uses frequencies we can't hear, but our computers can. There's a pattern in the background noise. I think they're communicating." with someone else while talking to us. Alan frowned. Who would they be talking to? I don't know, but whatever they're saying, they don't want us to hear it. 6 hours later, Alan arrived at the Mountain Research Facility. The place was in chaos as scientists packed up equipment and shredded documents. Dr. Ward didn't look up from her work when Alan entered her lab. Unless you're here to help me move this equipment, you're wasting my time. Dr. Ward, I'm Commander. Foster, Admiral Blake sent me, that got her attention. Is it true about the aliens? Yes. And we need your help. Olivia pointed to a small device on her workbench. It looked like a metal box with lights on it. This is a quantum field generator. It's experimental. We were studying how particles can exist in two places at once. And how does that help us? Against alien invaders? Their ships generate quantum fields too, much stronger than ours. That's how they travel so fast. But if two quantum fields interact... She made an explosion gesture with her hands. You think we can use this against them? Alan asked, hope rising in his voice. Maybe. But we need to get closer to one of their ships to test it, and we need more time to make it work properly. As they talked, the first Draconian scout ships entered Earth's atmosphere. People around the world watched the sky, some in fear, others in wonder. On the main Draconian warship, High Commander Zis Krath looked at the blue planet on his screen. Such a primitive world, he hissed to his second-in-command. They have no idea what's coming. Should we tell them the truth about why we're here? Asked his officer. No. Let them think we only want their obedience. The harvest will be easier that way. Unknown to the aliens, Jack Murray had managed to intercept and partially translate this private conversation. As he listened to the Draconians discuss their real plans for Earth, his face turned pale. He needed to warn Commander Foster and Dr. Ward. Whatever these aliens wanted, it was much worse than conquest. The human race had 2 weeks at most to find a way to stop them. The greatest fight in human history had begun. Dr. Olivia Ward's laboratory had moved. Instead of the quiet mountain facility, she now worked in a busy underground bunker. People in uniforms rushed around her as she focused on her quantum device. The small metal box now sat in the middle of a larger machine with wires and computers connected to it. Will it work? Asked Alan Foster. He had dark circles under his eyes. No one had slept much since the Draconians arrived. Maybe, said Olivia. But we need more power, and we need to test it. A new person entered the room. He had messy hair and wore a t-shirt with science jokes on it. I'm Kevin Rodriguez, he said. They tell me you need a programmer. Olivia nodded. The quantum field creates patterns. We need to match those patterns to the ones the alien ships make. Can you write code for that? Kevin smiled for the first time since the invasion began. That's why I'm here. In another part of the bunker, Jack Murray played the intercepted Draconian messages for Admiral Blake. They keep talking about something called the harvest. I don't think they just want to rule us. The Admiral's face was grim. What do they want then? Based on these messages, I think they want our resources. Maybe even our people. For what? I don't know yet. But they've done this before. To other worlds. Admiral Blake stood up straighter. Then we need to know everything about them. Commander Foster. Alan walked over from Olivia's lab area. Yes, Admiral? We need intelligence from their forward base. They've set up on Phobos, the moon of Mars. I need someone to go there. Alan didn't hesitate. I'll go. It's a one-way trip. Most likely. Someone has to do it. 2 days later, Alan sat in a small experimental spacecraft. Next to him was Laura Phillips, a former astronaut with short blonde hair and steady hands. The cloaking technology should hide us from their sensors, Laura explained as she prepared for launch. But it's never been tested against alien tech. If it doesn't work, we'll know pretty quickly, Alan said with a grim smile. Their ship, along with 2 others carrying small teams, launched quietly from the dark side of the moon. Earth's last remaining military satellites had been repositioned to hide their departure from the Draconian ships in orbit. As they left Earth behind, Alan looked at the blue planet through the window. I never thought I'd see it like this. Laura nodded. Beautiful, isn't it? Worth fighting for. The journey to Mars took 3 days using the experimental engines. As they approached the red planet, they saw the Draconian base. It covered almost half of Phobos, the small moon that orbited Mars. Dozens of ships moved around it like bees around a hive. Now we see if the cloaking works, whispered Laura, though no one could hear them in space. They held their breath as they flew past a massive Draconian patrol ship. It didn't react. The cloaking was working. They landed on the far side of Phobos, away from the alien base. Alan led his team out onto the surface, all wearing special suits that would hide their body heat from alien sensors. Remember, plant the devices and get out, he told his team of 4. No heroes today. They moved slowly across the moon's surface, using the low gravity to make long, careful jumps. When they reached the edge of the base, they split up. Alan and a soldier named Greg Kelly went toward what looked like a control center, while the others headed for the power systems. Inside the base, Alan was shocked by what he saw. The walls were covered with strange symbols and the air felt too hot and humid for humans. But most disturbing were the rows of empty cells. Prison cells, Greg whispered. Hundreds of them. They were planning to bring people here. Alan planted his first monitoring device on a wall near a computer terminal. It was smaller than his thumb but would send signals back to Earth. As he worked, he noticed something on a nearby screen. It showed images of planets being destroyed one after another. They've done this before, he realized. Many times. On the other side of the base, Laura Phillips and her team planted devices near the power generators. She noticed strange glowing crystals being used as fuel. Take images of everything, she told her team. Dr. Ward needs to see how their technology works. Back on Earth, Kevin Rodriguez made a breakthrough. He jumped up from his computer, startling Olivia. I've got it, he shouted. Their quantum field has a pattern. It repeats every 12 seconds. Olivia quickly looked at his data. That's it. If we can match that pattern but reverse it, we can disrupt their ships, Kevin finished her sentence. Just then, a message came in from Jack Murray. The Draconians have called for a meeting. They want to negotiate Earth's surrender. Admiral Blake gathered the world's leaders to discuss the option. In a room filled with screens showing people from different countries, she explained what they knew. They're not here to rule us. They've done this to 17 other worlds. They take a planet's resources and maybe its people, then move on. We can't surrender, but we can pretend to, suggested Richard Collins, a calm man with a talent for talking to difficult people. I can lead a team to meet with them. Buy us time. Time for what? Asked one of the leaders. Olivia stepped forward. Time for us to finish our weapon. We think we can disrupt their ships with a quantum field generator, but we need to get it close to their main ship. A Trojan horse, said Admiral Blake. Collins goes in under the flag of diplomacy. Commander Foster's team plants the device. If we're caught, they'll kill us all, Richard said. If we do nothing, they'll kill us anyway, replied the Admiral. On Phobos, Alan's team prepared to leave after collecting their data. But as they approached their hidden ship, they saw Draconian guards searching the area. They found our landing site, Laura whispered. Alan looked at his team, then back at the alien base. We need that information to get back to Earth. I'll create a distraction. The rest of you get to the second ship. Before they could argue, Alan jumped out from their hiding place and ran toward the Draconian guards, firing his weapon. The aliens turned toward him, giving the others a chance to escape. As Laura's ship lifted off from Phobos, she looked back at the surface of the moon. There was no sign of Alan. Commander Foster sacrificed himself, she told her team, fighting back tears. We can't waste it. When they returned to Earth, they delivered the critical intelligence. The monitoring devices Alan had planted continued to send signals, providing valuable information about Draconian technology and plans. In her lab, Olivia looked at the data from Phobos with growing excitement. This changes everything. Thereby, ships all connect to a central network. If we can disrupt one, we might disrupt them all, Kevin finished. As Earth prepared its desperate plan, The Draconian fleet moved closer. The final countdown had begun. Richard Collins stood before a mirror adjusting his tie. As Earth's chief negotiator, he needed to look perfect. Perfect, but not threatening. The Draconians had agreed to a meeting on their main ship. "Remember," said Admiral Blake, who watched, from the doorway, "your job is to keep them talking, nothing more." Richard nodded. "How long do you need?" 8 hours. That's how long it will take to plant the device and get out." Across the room, Heather Davis checked her equipment one last time. She was a technical specialist with steady hands and a quick mind. She would be the one to connect Dr. Ward's quantum device to the alien ship's systems. "Are you sure it will work?" Heather asked Olivia Ward, who was making final adjustments to the small metal box. "No," Olivia answered honestly, "but it's the best chance we have." The plan was simple but dangerous. Richard would lead a diplomatic team to the Draconian command ship. Hidden among his staff would be a small strike team. While Richard kept the aliens busy with talks, the strike team would plant the quantum device near the ship's power core. The diplomatic shuttle launched from Earth 6 hours later. From the outside, it looked normal, but hidden inside its walls was Dr. Ward's device along with weapons for the strike team. As they approached the massive Draconian flagship, everyone grew quiet. The alien ship was enormous, at least 3 miles long. Its surface looked like scales, dark green and shining. "They're hailing us," said the pilot. Richard took a deep breath. "Tell them we're here to discuss terms of surrender." The shuttle docked inside a huge bay filled with strange ships and alien machinery. When the doors opened, hot, humid air rushed in. It smelled like a swamp. 6 Draconian guards met them. They stood 7 feet tall with muscular bodies covered in green scales. Their yellow eyes watched the humans with cold interest. "Follow," said one in a hissing voice. "High Commander waits." As they walked through the ship, the strike team members memorized the layout. Olivia had explained that the quantum device needed to be placed near the ship's power source for maximum effect. They entered a large room with a round table in the center. At the far end sat High Commander Ziskrath, larger than the other Draconians with red markings on his scales. "So," he said, his voice deep and rumbling, "humans come to surrender." Richard smiled politely. "We come to discuss possibilities, Commander. Earth has much to offer as an ally rather than a conquered world." Ziskrath made a sound like rough laughter. "Allies? You have nothing we need. Perhaps we could show you some of our technology? We may be less advanced, but sometimes fresh perspectives offer new ideas." The Draconian seemed amused. "Show me these ideas." As Richard began his prepared presentation, designed to be as long and boring as possible, the strike team made their move. While guards were focused on the meeting, they slipped away one by one, claiming to need restrooms or feeling ill from the alien atmosphere. In the ship's corridors, they met up at a predetermined point. Their leader, a naval officer named Peter Wright, checked his small scanner. "Power signatures are strongest that way," he whispered, pointing down a long hallway. 2 levels down. They moved carefully, using the strange architecture to hide. The ship seemed alive, with walls that pulsed slightly and lights that followed movement. Meanwhile, Heather Davis kept in contact with Dr. Ward through a tiny device in her ear. It used the same quantum principles as the weapon to communicate instantly with Earth without the Draconians detecting it. "We're approaching what looks like an engine room," she whispered. "Lots of power readings." On Earth, Olivia and Kevin watched their screens nervously. "Look for glowing crystals," Olivia said, "like the ones Commander Foster saw on Phobos." The team moved deeper into the ship, they suddenly froze. Ahead of them was a large chamber filled with transparent containers. Inside each container was a strange, swirling substance. "What is that?" Peter asked, staring at the eerie sight. Heather scanned them. "Energy patterns. Complex ones. Almost like what?" "Like brain patterns," she said quietly. "I think they're minds, stored somehow." They took images to send back to Earth, then continued toward the power core. But as they turned a corner, they came face to face with two Draconian engineers. For a moment, both groups just stared at each other in surprise. Then Peter acted quickly. He threw a small device that released a cloud of gas. The Draconians collapsed, making horrible choking sounds. "Move," Peter ordered. "They'll find us soon." In the diplomatic room, Richard continued his lengthy presentation about Earth's agricultural systems. He could tell the Draconians were getting bored and impatient. "Perhaps we should take a short break," suggested Krath, clearly tired of the talk. "Oh, but I haven't even gotten to our water purification methods," Richard said quickly. "They're quite fascinating, especially when applied to swamp-like environments." The strike team finally reached the ship's power core. It was a massive chamber with a column of swirling energy in the center. Around it were the glowing crystals they had expected to find. "This is it," said Heather, taking out the quantum device. "I need 10 minutes to connect it properly." "Make it 5, said Peter, checking his watch. "We've already been gone too long." As Heather worked, attaching the device to the alien technology, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Voices shouted in the Draconian language, and heavy footsteps could be heard running. "They've found the engineers," Peter said grimly. "Hurry." Back in the diplomatic room, Richard saw Draconian guards rushing in. Krath rose to his full height, his yellow eyes now blazing with anger. "What have you done?" he demanded. Richard maintained his calm. "I don't understand, we're just talking." "Humans lie," roared the Draconian leader. "Guards, arrest them all." At the power core, Heather finished connecting the device. "It's done." "Now we get out of here," said Peter. But as they turned to leave, 5 Draconian guards appeared at the doorway, weapons raised. "Surrender now," one hissed. Peter looked at his team, then at the quantum device now humming with power. "Run!" he shouted, firing his weapon at the ceiling. Debris fell, temporarily blocking the doorway. The team fled down another corridor, but more guards appeared ahead. They were trapped. "We need to split up," Peter decided quickly. "Heather, you have to get back to the shuttle. The rest of us will create a distraction." Heather shook her head. "I won't leave you. The device is armed. Dr. Ward needs to know it's working. Someone has to tell her." Before she could argue further, Peter and the others charged toward the guards, weapons firing. Heather ran in the opposite direction, using the confusion to escape. In the diplomatic room, Richard and his team were surrounded by angry Draconians. Krath approached Richard, towering over him. "Your deception will cost your world dearly," he hissed. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Lights flickered, and a strange humming sound grew louder. On Earth, Olivia Ward's computers showed unusual readings. "The quantum field is activating," she told Admiral Blake. "But it's stronger than we expected." The Admiral looked concerned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know. The field is expanding beyond the flagship." Back on the Draconian ship, Heather managed to reach the shuttle bay. As she ran toward the Earth shuttle, she saw Richard and the diplomatic team being marched in by guards. "Run!" Richard shouted when he saw her. "Tell them it's working." Heather dashed for the shuttle as the guards fired at her. She made it inside just as the ship shuddered again, more violently this time. The Earth pilot didn't wait for orders. He launched immediately, blasting out of the bay as emergency lights flashed throughout the Draconian ship. As they flew away, Heather looked back. What she saw made no sense. The massive alien ship seemed to be bending somehow, as if reality itself was warping around it. "The quantum device?" she whispered. "What have we done?" Heather's shuttle raced away from the Draconian flagship. Through the window, she watched as the massive ship began to shimmer like a mirage in a desert. The other alien ships nearby seemed affected too, their shapes becoming less solid. "What's happening to them?" asked the pilot, his voice shaking. "The quantum device," Heather said. "It's working, but not the way we expected. They were still too close." The shuttle shuddered as waves of strange energy washed over it. Systems flickered on and off. Alarms blared. "We need to get farther away," Heather shouted. "Maximum speed," as The engines pushed to full power. Something incredible happened behind them. The Draconian flagship seemed to fold in on itself, like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. The space around it bent and twisted in impossible ways. On Earth, Dr. Olivia Ward stared at her screens in disbelief. "The quantum field is expanding far beyond our calculations," she told Admiral Blake. "It's affecting all Draconian ships connected to the network." "Is that good or bad?" the Admiral asked. "I don't know. We've never seen anything like this before." "Kevin." Rodriguez typed frantically at his computer. "The field is creating a feedback loop. It's growing stronger by itself." Olivia looked worried. "We need to warn Heather's shuttle to get as far away as possible." Back in space, Heather sent urgent messages to Earth. "The flagship is disappearing, not exploding, literally disappearing from normal space." Through the shuttle windows, they could see other Draconian ships being affected. Some tried to flee, but the strange effect moved faster than they could. One by one, the alien vessels began to shimmer and fold, vanishing from normal space. "This is amazing," whispered the pilot. Heather wasn't sure if amazing was the right word. What they had done was beyond their understanding. Had they destroyed the Draconians or merely sent them somewhere else? On the Draconian flagship, chaos reigned. Alarms blared in alien languages as crew members rushed through corridors that seemed to stretch and contract. Reality itself was breaking down. In a holding cell, Richard Collins felt the floor beneath him vibrate. The walls around him wavered like they were made of water instead of metal. The Draconian guard outside his cell let out a terrified hiss and ran away. Richard wasn't alone in the cell. 2 members of the strike team had been captured with him. One of them, a young soldier named Ben Wright, looked at the dissolving wall with wide eyes. "I think we should get out of here," he said. They stepped through the fading wall and into a corridor. Other prisoners were escaping too. Richard recognized some of them as humans, but others were clearly alien, species he had never seen before. The Draconians have been doing this across the galaxy, he realized, taking prisoners from many worlds. As they made their way through the disintegrating ship, they came across Peter, who had somehow survived the earlier firefight. "The shuttle bay," Peter said when he saw them. "It's our only chance." But reaching the shuttle bay wouldn't be easy. The ship's structure was falling apart around them. Corridors ended in strange, swirling voids. Gravity shifted unpredictably. In one chamber, they found High Commander Zeus Krath. The mighty Draconian was no longer frightening. He cowered in a corner, his scales losing their color. "What have you done?" he hissed when he saw the humans. "You've torn the fabric of space-time." Richard had no answer. They left the alien leader to his fate and pressed on. On Earth, Olivia watched as her instruments detected massive gravitational waves rippling through the solar system. The entire Draconian fleet, 342 warships, was being affected by the quantum field. "This could damage Earth too," she warned. "The waves are getting stronger." Admiral Blake ordered all space stations evacuated. Cities around the world prepared for possible earthquakes or tsunamis. People gathered in streets and parks to watch the sky, where strange lights had begun to appear. In the bunker, Kevin made a surprising discovery. "The field isn't destroying the ships," he said. "It's shifting them into another dimension." Olivia looked at his data. "A parallel reality? Is that even possible?" "The math says it is. Our device created a bridge between dimensions and the Draconian network spread it to all their ships. In space, Heather's shuttle finally reached a safe distance. From there, they watched in awe as the entire Draconian fleet seemed to fold in on itself. Ship after ship vanished from normal space, leaving only strange distortions where they had been. The process took exactly 23 minutes. When it was over, not a single Draconian vessel remained in the solar system. "We did it," Heather whispered. "They're gone." But gone where? And would they stay gone? These questions hung in the air, unanswered. The shuttle's communication system suddenly crackled to life. "This is Transport Vessel Freedom, requesting assistance. We have escaped prisoners from the Draconian flagship." Heather couldn't believe. "Richard, is that you?" "Yes, and about 30 others. Some human, some not. We managed to steal a transport before everything went crazy. Within hours, both vessels were on their way back to Earth. News of the Draconian fleet's disappearance spread rapidly around the world. People celebrated in the streets, but scientists and military leaders remained cautious. At the underground bunker, Admiral Blake met with Olivia and her team. "I need answers," she said. "Where did they go? Can they come back?" Olivia looked tired but determined. "Based on our readings, the quantum field created a pocket dimension, a bubble of different reality. And the Draconians are trapped there?" "Yes, but there's something strange about how time works in this bubble. Our calculations suggest that for every day that passes here, only seconds pass there." Kevin nodded. "From their perspective, they just arrived. They're probably still trying to figure out what happened." "So we've bought time," said the Admiral. "How much?" Olivia shrugged. "Years, maybe decades. But eventually, they'll find a way back. They have the technology and the knowledge. Then, we better use this time wisely." As Heather's shuttle approached Earth, she took a moment to look at her home planet. It seemed smaller somehow, more fragile. Yet humanity had just defeated the most powerful enemy it had ever faced. Richard stolen. Draconian transport followed behind them. Inside were beings from other worlds that had been conquered by the Draconians. They would have stories to tell, technologies to share, and warnings about what might still be out there among the stars. When the two ships landed, they were met by crowds of cheering people. For the first time since the Draconians appeared, there was hope. But in her lab, Olivia Ward continued to study the readings from the quantum event. Something wasn't right. The pocket dimension wasn't as isolated as they had first thought. There were connections, thin threads of quantum entanglement linking it to normal space, and along those threads, she detected faint signals, data, communication. The Draconians might be gone, but they weren't defeated. Not yet. 6 months passed since the day the Draconian fleet vanished. Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Alan Foster, who had been presumed dead on Phobos, returned 1 month after the Draconian disappearance. A group of aliens who had been prisoners of the Draconians found him barely alive in an abandoned section of the base. They brought him back to Earth on another stolen ship. Now fully recovered, Alan stood in a new office with large windows overlooking the Rocky Mountains. Admiral Blake had just pinned new insignia to his uniform. "Commander of the Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative," he said, reading the official document. "That's quite a title." Admiral Blake smiled, something she did more often these days. "You earned it. And we need someone who's seen what's out there firsthand." Outside the window, construction crews worked on massive new buildings. The EDI headquarters was just one of many new projects. All around the world, humans and their new alien allies worked together, sharing knowledge and preparing. "Any news from Dr. Ward?" Alan asked. "See for yourself," said the Admiral, leading him to an elevator. "She's waiting for you." They descended deep underground to where Olivia Ward had established her new research center. The facility was much larger than her old lab, filled with both human and alien scientists. Olivia was in a central room, studying a three-dimensional projection of swirling energy. Next to her stood Kevin Rodriguez and an alien being with blue skin and 4 arms. "Alan," Olivia called when she saw him. "Perfect timing. We've made a breakthrough." Alan studied the projection. "Is that the pocket dimension?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, we've been monitoring it since the event. The time difference is even more dramatic than we thought. For every month that passes here, only about 10 minutes pass there." "So, the Draconians are still in the first hour of being trapped," Kevin finished. "They have no idea what happened yet." The blue alien, whose name was Nixis Tara, pointed at different parts of the projection with 2 of her 4 hands. "But the barrier between dimensions is not permanent. Already we see small ruptures forming." "How long do we have?" Alan asked. Olivia looked serious. "Best estimate, 50 years. Maybe a century if we're lucky." "A century to prepare for their return," Alan said quietly. "More than time," said Admiral Blake. We have knowledge now. Information from 17 other species who fought the Draconians and lost. She led them to another section of the facility, where Richard Collins was working with a diverse group of aliens. They were examining star charts recovered from the Draconian base on Phobos. Richard smiled when he saw Alan. "Commander Foster, good to see you up and about." "What are you working on?" Alan asked. "Maps," Richard said, gesturing to the glowing star charts. The Draconians had information on thousands of star systems. We're identifying other worlds that might help us or threaten us. One chart showed a spiral galaxy with several points marked in red. "These are other predatory species," explained Richard. "Civilizations as dangerous as the Draconians. Some of them might have detected what happened here. You think they'll come to investigate? Eventually, we should be ready before they arrive." In another section of the facility, Heather Davis worked with Laura Phillips and engineers from 3 different alien species. They were studying pieces of Draconian technology recovered from Phobos. "Their ships are amazing," Heather told Alan as he toured the area. "The quantum drives alone could revolutionize how we travel through space." Laura nodded. "We're already building prototypes. Smaller vessels at first, but eventually, ships that can take us to other star systems." "How soon?" asked Alan. 2 years for the first test flights, 5 for a proper fleet. In the months since the Draconian disappearance, humanity had come together in a way no one thought possible. Old conflicts seemed petty in the face of what they now knew existed beyond their world. Resources once spent on fighting each other were redirected to defense and exploration. The aliens rescued from Draconian captivity provided invaluable help. They came from worlds scattered across the galaxy, each with their own technologies and knowledge. Some had been fighting the Draconians for generations before their planets fell. Most chose to remain on Earth, forming new communities and integrating with human society. Others worked to rebuild ships that could take them back to their home worlds, carrying warnings and new allies. As evening fell, Alan stood on a balcony overlooking the research center's main hangar. Below him, workers swarmed around the frame of a massive ship, unlike anything built on Earth before. Admiral Blake joined him at the railing. "Impressive, isn't it?" "What is it?" Alan asked. "Our future. Dr. Ward calls it the Quantum Vanguard. It's designed to use the same principles as her device, but for exploration rather than defense." The ship's hull gleamed in the lights of the hangar. It was beautiful in a strange way, combining human design with alien influences. "We've come so far in just 6 months," Alan said. "Imagine where we'll be in 5 years or 50. The Admiral looked thoughtful. "The Draconians came to conquer us. Instead, they gave us the stars." In her private lab, Olivia made a final adjustment to a small device on her desk. It looked similar to the quantum weapon that had sent the Draconian fleet away, but with significant modifications. Kevin watched her work. "Are you sure about this? The calculations are still theoretical." "Theory becomes practice through testing," Olivia replied. "Besides, we need to know if it's possible." The device was designed to open a tiny, controlled window into the pocket. Dimension. Not enough to let anything through, but enough to observe what was happening there. As Olivia activated it, a small projection appeared above the device. It showed the Draconian flagship frozen in a moment of distortion. Inside, the alien crew moved in extreme slow motion, still reacting to the first effects of the quantum field. "It works," Olivia whispered. "We can watch them and learn from them," added Kevin. "Everything they do to try to escape will teach us how to keep them trapped." Later that night, Alan Foster stood outside the facility looking up at the stars. They seemed different now that he knew what was out there. Both more frightening and more inviting. A shooting star streaked across the sky. Once, people made wishes on such sights. Now they wondered if it might be a ship from another world. In the pocket dimension, trapped between moments of normal time, the Draconian fleet remained. From their perspective, the strange effect that had captured them was still unfolding. High Commander Ziz Krath still stood on his bridge, watching in horror as reality twisted around him. The Draconians would eventually understand what had happened. They would find ways to study the quantum barrier, to test it, and ultimately, to break it. When they returned to normal space, they would seek revenge against the humans who had humiliated them. But when that day came, whether in 50 years or 100, they would not find the same Earth they had tried to conquer. They would find a world ready for them, a humanity that had grown beyond its cradle with ships and weapons and allies of its own. On his desk, Alan Foster had a small display showing the construction schedule for Earth's new defense fleet. The first ship would be ready for testing next month. Its name was already painted on the hull in large white letters. Remembrance. The Draconians had come to make humanity extinct. Instead, they had made humanity stronger. When they finally returned, the hunters would become the hunted. And somewhere in the depths of space, other civilizations received strange signals, echoes of the quantum event that had swallowed an entire invasion fleet. Some would be curious. Others would be afraid. All would soon learn that Earth was no longer an easy target. It was the home of the species that had made the mighty Draconian fleet vanish without a trace.